Well, you've waited your whole lives for it. San Jose Sharks have finally acquired Mike Hoffman. All right, everybody, you know the deal. It's Erik Karlsson trade day. Jerkman, initial thoughts?
My initial thoughts are, it's more of a question. Do you finally feel vindicated?
I knew you were going there. I knew it. To be fair, a little bit. I kind of do. Okay. A little bit. Sure, I mean, I think we can all finally say that the contract extension was a terrible idea.
Yeah, I mean, given the fact that they traded it away halfway through, definitely jives with that, I would say.
Yeah, and he was only good for one of those years? Or I don't want to say good, healthy.
I was gonna say it depends on how you define the word good, but yeah, I get your point.
Or I should say the return on investment was only good for 1 year. How's
right.
That?
I mean, yeah, of course. And you made the point very early on that, at that kind of dollar amount, you want to be in the top 5 Norris voting yearly. And unfortunately, I believe that only happened twice, the first year and then this most recent year. So I still, at the end of the day, I still like what Erik Karlsson brought to the table. I still think he's a really good player, but the things that you've been saying for a while do have some merits.
Okay, see, that's all I'm saying. I don't need all the cookies, just one or two. So let's get into what is entailed in all this, because it's funny to see Montreal somehow come in and save the day. So who the hell is Rem Pitlick?
I don't want to say he's just a guy, because he's a little bit more than that. I mean, kind of like that sort of really good AHLer kind of floats around the bottom 6 NHLer sort of guy. I mean, good stats last year, so he's not a nothing piece. He definitely is going to add to Pittsburgh's depth, as they try and, go on one more run, or I guess 3 more runs with how Erik Karlsson's contract is structured.
Yeah. Okay, so Pittsburgh also gets Dylan Hameliuk.
Yeah, which, when the Sharks drafted him in 2019, he was a prospect that I kind of was excited that the Sharks were able to get their hands on. And then it never really went anywhere from there. So I think similar to, as much as I hate to say it, similar to Santeri Hatakka with the Timo Meier deal, it's like, we like you, but maybe somewhere else will help you grow better,
Okay, I'm good with that. And it's not as if the Sharks Barracuda are hemorrhaging players.
Right.
And so they finally, in the last piece, the Penguins getting a 2026 third-round pick. Now, that seemed a little high to me, but then I saw how much money the Sharks are keeping on the books for Karlsson, and I was like, no, I'm fine with that. Third round's good.
Well, and it's a third-round pick 3 years from now, right?
Yeah, when the Sharks might actually be good again.
But not only that, but and this is definitely putting the cart before the horse, but look at who the Sharks already have on the roster before this trade, and then obviously who they're bringing in with this trade. Like, I don't think they will be without a 2026 third for very long. Let's just say that.
Okay, then. So Montreal being third man in the deal, getting Jeff Petry.
God love him.
I thought I saw something that the Pens are going to eat a little bit of Petry's money. Is that right?
Yeah, they're eating 25% of Petry's remaining contract, which is this year and next year. I believe it. I want to double check this. I believe it's at 6 3/4. Here's the kind of the fun little thing of this whole trade. 6 1/4 for Jeff Petry, by the way. So Jeff Petry had been prior to last season, Jeff Petry had been a Montreal Canadien for 9 years. And Montreal's like, you know what? We're rebuilding. We're going to send Petry to Pittsburgh. Maybe he can win a cup there, play more minutes, blah, 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 all that kind of stuff. And then a year later, Pittsburgh's like, you know what? why don't you just go back? And what I really think is it's an underrated element to this trade, and I don't think it's something that a lot of people have mentioned, which is fine. This trade is less than an hour old, but think about all the dialogue surrounding this trade. Pretty much since the season ended, right? It's been, how much are the Sharks going to retain? Is it 30%, 40%, 50%?
Right.
And
it
ends
to
up
be
being,
to be fair,
yeah,
you were on the train of like, hey, eat as much as possible. You're going to suck for the duration, so get all you can.
Yeah, there's a part of me that still kind of feels that way, but I'm very happy with this deal because they end up only retaining $1.5 million, which I believe is
that's
13.
Nothing.
That's like 13%, I think, of his cap or something, somewhere in that neighborhood. So all of the dialogue over the last 4 or 5 months was for nothing because the Sharks retained $1.5 million. But also, the other thing coming out of that dialogue was, are the Sharks going to have to loop a third team in? Are the Sharks going to have to pay a sweetener to get rid of the contract? And they did end up having to loop a third team in. But if you just look at where everybody went, it almost seems like the Sharks said to Pittsburgh, like, hey, if you want to make this happen, we are passing the quote-unquote sweetener requirement on to you. And I think that's why Jeff Petrie is going back to Montreal with Pittsburgh holding on to 25% of his money. That's also why I think Pittsburgh gave Montreal a second-round pick 2 years from now. It's almost like Pittsburgh had to come up with the sweetener, which is another good little thing right there from the Sharks. Because like I said, we've seen it the other way a million times where, really, really good players, you basically have to beg to get rid of them,
No kidding. Oh, man. So, yeah, a couple other pieces go to Montreal. Let's just, who cares? Let's just get to what San Jose's getting.
Yeah, I do like it from Montreal because they get a second, and Jeff Petrie evidently meshed really well there. I don't know, maybe he plays there and he is a leader for them. Maybe they flip him and Montreal keeps doing what they're doing. I think they're just happy to be there. They're like, you're going to give us a second and we get someone back that we like. Okay.
Yeah, play, and then you get a goalie and you get Casey DeSmith, and okay.
Right.
Or I'm sorry, the goalie. He is the goalie.
Yep.
I'm telling you, it's too early for me to function. So the Sharks, all right, Granlund.
Yep.
What do you think of what do you like about that?
And I'm definitely in the minority here. I acknowledge that. I like Mikael Granlund. I don't think he's some spectacular player, but I think he is decent. And, he was acquired at the deadline by Pittsburgh and didn't really work out there, which part of it is, yeah, it happens. And so I'm looking at this as part of it is like, trying to dump salary because, he's making $5 million this year and next year. And then the other part of it is, hey, you know what? It didn't work out. Why don't we just move on and save everyone the headache? But the thing with Granlund is he's a versatile player. Like, he can play on the wing. He can play at center, which obviously gives David Quinn options when putting together a lineup, next season and the year after. But the other thing as well with Mikael Granlund is he's good enough to where if you put him in the right situation, you can sort of rebuild his cachet a bit and flip him either this coming trade deadline or at the 2025 trade deadline when he's going to be a UFA. So with Granlund and with Hoffman, actually, like, it's really smart because some might look at this and say, really, that's all you got? But you have to, I guess, forecast down the road that Granlund and Hoffman will at some point end up being flipped for second-round picks. And
this is what I'm saying.
It's definitely getting ahead of things, but it's all about how the Sharks can like kind of rehab and rebuild those images. Because if you can, also the third round pick the Sharks gave up is 2026. Like, this trade is far from being set in stone, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I look at it as a win, and it's definitely, the Sharks are definitely playing the long game here, but given where they're at, you almost kind of want them to play the long game, right?
Well, 2024 draft right now, the Sharks have 4 picks in the first 2 rounds. And, if everything goes proper in New Jersey, that could be 3 first-round picks.
Yeah, and many people are saying that
albeit many people are saying it's going to be a soft draft, but still.
Sure, but you know what? Like even in go back to any draft year that was considered a soft draft, and there's just something about first round picks that teams kind of lose their mind over, right? Whether it's trading or drafting, because I know people are gonna freak out when this escapes my lips here, but with 3 first round picks, if there's a trade that kind of falls into your lap that maybe you think kind of could help you out down the road, then you explore that and you say, okay, yes, we're giving up a first round pick when we're terrible, but is this a under 24 player that's got first line potential? You know what I mean?
Grayson Hendricks in the chat, thank you so much for the donation.
Shout out.
What are the odds the Sharks now try to offer sheet Lafreniere? I mean, well, he did so great under what the hell's the name of our coach?
David Quinn.
He did so well under Quinn. No, I'm kidding. Who knows? At this
if
point,
I can be cynical, dude, I hope 0.
Yeah, no kidding. I can't. There's only so many reclamation and rehab projects you can have.
Well, that's the thing. That's a good point, because like Granlund is a reclamation project, even though he's been more good than not good. So I don't foresee that being that difficult of a project. LeBanc is technically a reclamation project. Hoffman, I think Hoffman has still put up good numbers in Montreal, but again, a guy who is not putting up the numbers he put up when he was with Ottawa and Florida. So maybe you can get him back to being a 70-point guy. Duclair, not really a reclamation project, but had a down year, so you hope that you can goose those numbers. Lindblom's a reclamation project. Zetterlund, not a reclamation project, but you want him to maybe provide more offense. Zadina, a definite reclamation project. So the Sharks, they have a lot of they have a lot of money down on the table here, and as long as they don't roll a 7, I think things will be really good for them with the players they've acquired in terms of long-term building.
Well, and let's 30,000-foot view this. The pieces that the Sharks brought in. Granlund, 2 years, right? This year and next year he's contracted, 31 years old.
Correct.
Then you have Ruda, defenseman, 33 years old, 2 years.
Yep.
Then you've got, which has to be the funniest part of this whole thing. I mean, it's like the humor god said, AJ has his reasons for whatever, not the biggest Karlsson fan. So when we finally move him out, let's just give him that little extra giggle by adding Mike fucking Hoffman to the deal. So you get Hoffman, 33, only 1 year. And the dude, Hoffman, what does he do? He just goes somewhere and takes that team to the playoffs. That's what he does.
Yeah. And the thing with Hoffman, especially as a pending unrestricted free agent, like he's going to be in the top 6. He's going to be on one of the top 2 power play units. Like every emphasis is going to be put towards getting Mike Hoffman back to be a 70-point player. I don't want to, I don't want to tantalize people too much here, but it wasn't that long ago that Hoffman put up back-to-back seasons at a 70-point pace.
Mm-hmm.
If he does that again, does all of a sudden Mike Hoffman become worth a first-round pick?
Dude. And right now,
I'm just saying, Big Money Mike is winning me over with these last few trades.
Dude, I get it. I remember us very early on, it was like the Birds trade, right? We were all kind of, we were whelmed.
Yep.
It was very meh. And here we are basically a year later, and I got to sit there and I have to admit, I see light at the end of this tunnel. Like I get what Greer is throwing down.
Right.
Like I'm seeing it like they're finally, and again, it's sad that the Sharks were the last ones to realize they needed to rebuild. But, dude, Greer, so far, I'm going, goddamn, man, I gotta give this guy credit. And then losing Curtis Brown off the broadcast, even another plus. This has been so. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah, I was gonna say on the ice, off the ice. It's all been roses, man.
And so now the Sharks 3.9 left in projected cap space. However, they are at 23 of 23 on their roster size, but 48 of 50 on the contract. So, makes you wonder what else could occur. But if you look at
kind of where we are in the summer, right? There's still
they can make a player
a good amount of guys. Like, but right, yeah, there's still a good amount of players that are available on the free agency market. Not anybody who's spectacular, but if you think, hey, maybe this is a guy we can play and sort of,
dude, remember Sharks Facebook, anytime somebody becomes available, it's always, Sharks should get him.
Yeah. Cap space and roster space be damned, right? But here's the other thing, though. With you mentioned the cap, the Sharks are at $3.99 million in cap space, which is to have a full roster and have that much space left. That's perfect. That's perfect, right?
Mm-hmm.
But you look at it a little bit deeper. The Sharks are carrying 14 defensemen. Or I'm sorry, 14 forwards.
It feels like 14 defensemen.
Yeah, the Sharks are carrying 14 forwards. They're not going to go into the season doing that.
Mm-hmm.
They're carrying 8 defensemen. They're not going to go into the season doing that. So that's between the two. That's 2 more roster players that are going to be sent to the Barracuda or what have you, right? So if you kind of lowball your estimation, the Sharks could very easily end up with another, after it's all said and done, they could be closer to $5.5 million in space, after they set their roster.
Yeah. Hold on. Let's get to just another Randy G. Thank you. Shout out. Does retaining 2 players' cap hits for the next 2 years the worst thing that comes out of this trade for SJ? No, because they were going to suck anyway.
Right. And it's and the other thing too, not that it's really jamming things up at all, but there's a kind of a big picture here is so Martin Jones' buyout penalty is $2.9 million for this year. After this year, it goes down to 1.6, so you have some savings there as well.
Mm-hmm.
Also, Rudolph Sbalser's buyout penalty, $308,000, which is nothing. That's not even a full contract.
Dude, that
completely drops off.
That's a night in the champagne room for the boys.
Right. So if you 23-24 hasn't even started, and we're already forecasting to the year after. But a year from now, we're going to be talking about how the Sharks buyout situation has eased a little bit, and they've ended up with, just doing some quick math, about $1.5 million extra in cap space just from the buyout situation, kind of relaxing a bit.
And what's the cap projected to go up to next season? Like up about 4 to 5 mil, maybe 3 to 5.
Next season. So we got another little baby bump for this year, $83.5 million. Next year they're expecting $87.5 million.
See, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, so it's kind of the perfect sort of opportunity, if you will, where all these big money guys who maybe are not playing up to the contract, or maybe you just don't need them on your team, right? LeBanc, Hoffman, Duclair, Barabanov, Lindholm. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if none of those guys are re-signed, right?
Yes.
And so you're saving Radim Šimić as well,
mm-hmm.
Kaapo Kähkönen as well, Luke Kunin. So you're saving a lot of money on that front. The buyouts penalty is going down from $3.22 million to $1.66 million, almost cut in half, really.
Yeah, it's huge.
And the salary cap is going up $4 million. So it's kind of a perfect storm where
this is what I'm saying.
The Sharks are going to have a boatload of cap space next summer and 3 first-round picks. So again, I don't want to say
provided Jersey does well.
Correct. Yes, you're right. I don't want to say the Sharks are going to trade their way out of this hole. But if a player, like I said, if a 24 or younger first line kind of player becomes available, maybe Big Money Mike takes a sniff.
Mm-hmm. All right. Skylar in the chat. Shout out.
Shout out to Skylar.
Next year, Sharks have 36.4 mil in cap space. That's a good amount.
And you look like who Who on this team do they have to re-sign? I mean,
Henry Thrun.
yeah, Henry Thrun. Yeah, Henry Thrun is kind of a big one, but I don't foresee him commanding a bunch of money, truthfully. Same with Thomas Bordeleau. Um,
Barabanov.
Jacob Peterson, if he has a big year, he'll get some nice coin. But like beyond that, like Kakinen, maybe Shimmick, absolutely not. McDonald, absolutely not.
Ryan Carpenter? No.
Cunnin will probably get re-signed. Zadina, if it works out, he'll get re-signed. But like Lindblom, probably not. Barabanov, 50-50. Duclair, probably not. Hoffman, probably not. LeBanc, probably not. So the Sharks are going to have a bunch of cap space and not really a lot of guys they need to sign. So this also allows them to take on cap dumps.
Yes. Yes.
Perfect storm, I think.
I'm liking where this is going. Hey, Doom Knight, like this. Doom Knight, as a Knights fan, never seen Doom Knight in the chat before, so welcome in. Doom Knight, as a Knights fan, what is this going to do to make the rivalry more interesting? Feels like San Jose are in fire sale mode. They absolutely are. And
what will make it more interesting is your Knights will win more games.
Hold on, I'm sorry, your Knights will what?
I said as what will make it more interesting is Doom Knights, Golden Knights will win more games.
Yes.
Interesting for them.
We'll see. This is now. Here's the funny thing. Let's just go off topic just for a hot second.
Sure.
Again, my voice is still trying to wake up. The Knights and the Sharks. You think the trajectory that both teams are on over the next 5 years, you can see that the Sharks have this plan, and it's all part of the plan. And we're just like you're saying, we're going to gain a whole bunch of cap space, plus our dead money is going to get halved. And a lot of these pieces, whether it's a Mike Hoffman or whoever, could potentially be flipped for more pieces going forward. And, Money Mike, going to make them money moves. So over the course, like maybe by 26, right? The Sharks are competitive again. They're making the playoffs. They're potentially looking at the second round.
Yeah, maybe.
We don't know. Say Krona becomes the next Patrick Waugh. Like we don't know. Weird things are afoot at the Circle K some days. But on that same level, over the next 3 years, the bill is going to come due in Vegas.
Yeah.
Right? It does for every cup-winning team. The bill will come due. Marchessault, isn't he like 36 or something?
No, he's not that old, but he's definitely getting there.
He's on the wrong side of 30.
Yeah, Marchessault 32, but he's more notable is that he's going to be a free agent after this year.
There you go. And it's not as though, excuse me, Vegas is known for having loyalty to their players.
Or cap space for their players.
That as well. So, something, it may come due. They better hope that Aiden Hill can keep her going. Pitter patter. But
it's kind of interesting, right? The way you look at you mentioned trajectory, right? Where the Sharks, the first 2 years of Vegas's tenure in the league, the Sharks and the Golden Knights were like, if you were to visualize them on a graph, their lines were pretty much touching. Like that's how similar those two teams were. And then after 2019, like Vegas shot up and the Sharks shot down. And I think eventually over time, I don't want to handicap it, maybe 3 years, 5 years, you're going to see those lines sort of creep back to the center and cross over again. And, maybe they'll both flip the opposite direction, but, I think it's going to be a while, to the points you made about Sharks taking multiple steps back, the Vegas Golden Knights kind of exploding upwards. Like it's going to be a while before both teams are on a similar level, I think.
So with this move, what are you projecting? And I'm not a fan of doing this. Sure. Speculating weeks out. There could be more moves to be made, but as it stands right now, who are the 7 guys you got wearing teal on opening night on the blue line?
Well, I mean, I'll do the free spaces first. Vlasic and Ferraro.
Sure.
I'm obviously you put Jan Ruta in there just because you traded for him, but also he's an NHL defenseman.
Mm-hmm.
So, from there, it's sort of kind of a
Jump ball.
It's really kind of, pull a name out of the hat. I would say and Matt Benning. I'm sorry. So those four, I think, are your locks: Vlasic, Ferraro, Ruta, and Matt Benning. From there, I think it really just kind of goes to both personal preference and where you think they're at in their development. Like I say, Nikolai Knyzhov is probably your number 5. I would say.
So then, and I don't mean to interrupt, but
no, you're sure you're good.
So then, let me ask you: do you think the play then would be better to have Knyzhov down with the Cuda playing more minutes, like top pair, versus having him? Like, I understand the benefits on both sides, but what do you think is the play when you look that it's like they still have Burrows, they still have McDonald, Shimmick? Again, I don't want to have more dead money. So is he your 7th guy, or do the Sharks just waive him?
Probably that one.
All right.
Especially because we talked about, and not that our opinion really matters.
I think that we have receipts. Our opinion matters.
But one of the final things we talked about at the end of this past season was how if the Sharks were forced to buy out Radim Šimik, how tame it would be.
Mm-hmm.
Like, actually, not tame is the wrong word use there. How painless it would be.
Yeah.
Painless is probably the better word there. Like, almost like addition by subtraction. And so,
which is sad because we were such Šimik guys for so long.
Right. And so I'm not, like, why I say our opinion doesn't matter is because maybe people in the organization don't see it the way that we see it. But I think you're right, where if you have to waive him, or you basically he's the 7th guy, or you end up trading him away for, a future considerations, like, big deal. You know what I mean? But going back to what you said about Knyzhov, the thing is, and I don't know that somebody would take him, but Knyzhov now requires waivers to go to the American Hockey League. So
that's a kick in the balls.
You do run the risk of losing him to waivers, but also, and I think this is kind of the most important part. Excuse me. The Sharks gave Nikolai Knyzhov a 2-year extension when he had only played 12 games in the last 2 years.
That's a great point. Yeah,
that tells me they really like him.
Well, really like him, but I think that means something to Knyzhov.
Yeah, like, hey, we're trusting you. We're loyal to you. We believe in you.
We did right by you.
Yeah, we're gonna do right by you. And I don't think it's the Sharks being like, hey, you better do what we want because we're paying you. I don't think it's that way. I think it's more like, despite the small body of work the last 2 years, the Sharks gave him a 2-year deal, a 2-year one-way deal, I might add,
and got rid of the guy whose name sounded too close to his.
That too, right? But I just look at the fact, and Kevin Lacey pointing out Knyzhov is on a one-way contract as well, so that kind of further dampens the whole, Barracuda plan. But I think when you're giving a guy who's played 12 games over the last 2 years a 2-year contract, like, to me that says you are going to be in the NHL.
Well, it just makes me wonder then, who's your top pair with the Barracuda next year? I mean, Nikita and Shakir. I mean, if Thrun and Knyzhov are making because that's the other thing. If Thrun and Knyzhov have like a monster camp, like, oh my God, then what do you do?
Well, I think what you do is you say, hey, you know what, we're going with the best players, and it's an added bonus that the best players are the young players, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I do think you just look, I mean, the Sharks, they brought in a lot of guys. I mean, even without Knyzhov or Thrun, right? They have Muka Medulin, they have Gannon Larocque, they have Nick Cicek, Aquatuk, who they got in the Timo Meier deal. Valtteri Pulli, who they signed out of the Finnish league, Gavanka, who they traded for, or I believe they signed or traded for Gavanka. But same with Gavanka, he left Winnipeg. He signed, and Kevin will tell you this, he signed a multi-year deal for millions of dollars to go to Germany. And he was like, you know what? Those Sharks, they gave me a 1-year deal at less than $1 million. I'm going to go there. So clearly Gavanka is in their plans. Probably top pair in the Barracuda would be Gavanka, and maybe an opportunity to get called up to the NHL roster should guys like Shimmick or McDonald or even Matt Benning or Ferraro, just guys who've had whispers around them, get moved out.
Yeah. Well, again, I'm a big fan of the humor and the giggles. I just want to say getting Mike Hoffman back in this deal is so hysterically funny to me.
What do you think is more ironic? Karlsson and Hoffman being traded for each other, or this being Hoffman's second tenure in Teal?
Oh, dude, it just all works out so perfectly. Like, again, it was just kind of like the hockey gods looked down and said, how can we make AJ more excited about this? Let's get Hoffman involved. This is great. Oh, and stick taps to Elliot Friedman for doing yeoman's work in providing so many bloggers and podcasters with content. What are they going to do now?
Yeah,
between now and camp. Jeez, man.
Especially because
clickbait articles and everything. And, dude, I swear to God, one of the articles I saw, it was, here's 10 teams Erik Karlsson could end up with. And then the article went on to list a reason for each team why it wouldn't happen. I'm going, what?
Well, and the other really kind of interesting thing as well about that is all of the insiders basically from Canada Day, or I'm sorry, 4th of July to Labor Day is pretty much like an extended vacation for them. So the fact that Elliot Friedman is on vacation and he's like, you know what, I'm going to throw a tweet out here that's going to really, butter everyone's toast. Yeah. And, doing that while on vacation, I think is even more incredible. I want to point out too, Kevin mentioning as well, Gavanka initially signed in Germany because wasn't getting an NHL opportunity in Winnipeg. So it makes me wonder if the Sharks were able to lure him back to North America. Maybe there's the promise of an NHL opportunity, because I'll be honest with you, like, I know Jacob McDonald, he came in with the Ryan Merkley trade last year and played in the NHL. I'm not convinced guys in the NHL this year. And, there is still, some considerations for Shimmick as well, like we pointed out. There have also been a lot of whispers around Ferraro and Benning. I mean, just because they're on the younger side and have years left doesn't mean they're safe,
Oh.
Like we always, the joke we were doing earlier, like, I don't remember who it was, but it was like, no one is safe, right?
Absolutely.
And it's true. You know what I mean? Like,
well, hold on. Let's get back to this for a second, because I think this is great. Oh, well, hold on. Let's talk about what Ricky's saying in the chat right now. So I think the most ironic part is Karlsson leaving Ottawa for an over-the-hill aging Sharks core, and then he goes, I want to win, trade me now, and goes to the Penguins, who are in the same situation.
The only thing with that, though, last I checked, the Sharks don't have a Crosby or a Malkin or a Letang.
Sure.
Or a Brian Rust.
But, okay, that's
all those guys.
Solid point. But aging core with the Penguins, how do you think Karlsson and Letang are going to work out? Is that going to be Burns Karlsson part 2? I've heard that Letang is just, they're playing him too many minutes. They think he would be more effective if they could bring those down. So obviously, here's Erik Karlsson coming along. How do you think this works out? I mean, this is the last kick at the can for Crosby and the boys, eh?
Yeah, it definitely is. I mean, especially Crosby's got 2 years left, this year and next year. And that's not to say that I think he'll end up walking away and going somewhere else. But, depending on what happens in those next 2 years, I think could really sort of set the stage for where Pittsburgh goes from there, right? And to your question about Karlsson and Letang, I kind of thought the same thing, right? Like when people were talking about it, I was thinking, like, how do they coexist? Like, how is this not just Burns Karlsson 2.0? But a lot of people seem to think it's not going to be just this style of game Letang plays. Like, it would still allow Karlsson to do his thing. And the more you kind of look at it, like, I'm inclined to agree with that, because you look like with Burns and with Karlsson, like, they were both at the time, they were both playing at a number one defenseman pace, like points and just minutes, power play, penalty kill, all the situations, right? Where now you look at what Chris Letang has done, like, it almost seems like Chris Letang, to the point of the people you mentioned, would settle into that second pair, second power play unit, second penalty. Well, actually, probably first penalty kill unit, because Erik Karlsson shouldn't kill penalties. So I feel like because of where
that would require playing defense. Go ahead.
Right. Because of where Letang is at in relation to where Burns was 4 years ago, I feel like Karlsson Letang can work out as long as there's that understanding,
Sure. I'm down with that.
With Pittsburgh, like, they definitely do have an aging core. I'm not going to say that they don't. But they're still, like,
Wasn't last season the first time they missed the playoffs in the Crosby era?
Yes, correct.
So, yeah.
And I don't want to call anyone out here, but I really feel like the whole, oh, this person is this age thing is a false flag, right?
Oh, dude, like, how old was Lidstrom when he finally hung him up? Like 41?
Well, not only
Chelios?
What Nick Lidstrom didn't win his first Norris Trophy until after the age of 30, and he won 7 of them.
See, there you go.
But here's the other thing. I'll pose the question to you. People say aging core and what are they doing and all this kind of stuff. First of all, the Penguins have a better team than the Sharks. I think that's worth mentioning.
Mm-hmm.
But also, if you're building your team and you look at Evgeny Malkin, who's 37, are you going to say, man, this guy's 37, I don't know if I can have him on my team? Or are you going to say, this guy scored 83 points as a 37-year-old?
Right. Well, and the funny thing is, defensively, the average age of the team, the Sharks and the Penguins, they're both like 29.
Yeah.
the average now, yeah, Vlasic's going to skew that number just like Karlsson's going to skew it or whatever. But the Penguins, average age of their forward group, 31. The Sharks right now, 27. So,
right. And it's definitely a consideration. The Penguins, they are older at forward, but again, they're playing better.
Yeah, exactly. They're competing right now. They are making that last kick of the can. The Sharks.
I wouldn't even say they're playing better. I would just say they are better, right?
Oh, yeah. Well, I'm sorry. That's what I meant.
Yeah, like Crosby, Malkin, the Sharks don't have one of those right now. Brian Rust is very good. Ricard Raquel is very good. Jake Gensel, the Sharks had one of those and they traded him away. They bring in Riley Smith on the cheap. Jeff Carter's still effective despite his age. Lars Eller, same thing. Getting Rem Pitlick, he's 26, so maybe there's not much more room to grow, but he's an effective player, right? So, yes, the Penguins are older and they're definitely closer to the end than the beginning, but like, this is not a dead on arrival team. Like, the Penguins will probably make the playoffs next year and they'll probably do really well. Just the way that team is structured, they have too much firepower.
Well, and talking about way things are structured, how much money did Hasso Plattner have to cough up for this?
What do you mean by that?
Well, and I'm seeing Puckpedia net cap hit year by year. Year one plus 2.25 mil. Year two minus 2.25 mil. Years 3 and 4 dash 10 million.
Right. So, I mean, you would have to.
That's the way Karlsson's deal is structured, right?
Yeah, I mean, if you want to let me whip out a calculator,
whip it out.
I can. If you want to vamp, I can.
Well, my whole thing about this is, look, I think a couple people might be under the illusion that I wasn't the biggest Karlsson fan.
You don't say.
Yeah. So I'm very happy to see this happen. Not because he didn't have a great year last year, but let's be real. Where the Sharks are versus where Karlsson is at. Like, this is the best. For me, this is the best possible outcome we could have seen. We saw so many, all the hyperbole and speculation. Oh, the Sharks are going to, Greer's over his skis on this. He only wants to retain up to 20%. And look, nobody's banging down his door, and Carolina has made this signing, and Seattle's made this signing. And so, what was it? Carolina got D'Angelo, and Seattle gets done, or ink's done. Basically, waving a flag that says, "Hey, yo, we're out of the sweepstakes." Plus, not to mention, let's also. I'm not saying that any of this holds any weight whatsoever, but I just want to say, back on July 18th, Pittsburgh Tribune podcast with Tim Pence and Mark Madden had Madden saying Karlsson is vehemently against going to Carolina. So, take that for what it is, but all I know is Chief ain't in Carolina. So how much did Hasso have to cough up for to stick in your craw to sit there and go, oh boy, half this contract. Yikes.
So here, you know what? And that's a consideration I didn't factor in, but it's, let me see really quick. So this deal is going to cost Hasso-Plattner. Just this trade, players coming in, retain salary, all this kind of stuff, right? And this is over the length of time that all these respective players have left on their contracts. This deal cost Hasso-Plattner $27 million.
Ooh.
But it saved him $33 million.
Oh, that's a good piece of business then.
Yeah, so you're net positive $6 million.
Oh, that's a nice piece of business.
Also, what if I were to tell you?
Say it.
What if I were to tell you? And again, this is gonna be kind of really perfectly crafted in order to help my narrative. But what if I told you that Granlund, Hoffman, and Ruta, their cap hits combined is very close. Like I don't have the exact number, but plus or minus a couple $1,000 to what Karlsson's cap hit is this year.
Oh, I love that. Thank you, Morpheus. Chris in the chat, our buddy Chris, where you been? I will never understand anyone who wants Hasso more engaged. He's writing checks as he should. Go look at how active owners work out in pro sports and make you the argument to me why that's a good idea. Hello, John Fisher.
I've been saying that ever since I've been saying that ever since like the reverse sweep. Like what like I just and to
you
this
put
is way
people
off topic.
in place to be successful, and you sit back and you cut the checks and you let them execute their vision.
But like here's the thing. So say Hasso-Plattner is more involved. He's at the games or whatever. Like what like
so
what do you want him to do?
Yeah, get like, down there with the cheerleader outfit.
Is he supposed to go in the locker room and say, "Guys, let's freaking do it, man.
Yeah, I'm paying you a lot of money. Let's get out there."
Yeah, and I just crunched the numbers. So Hoffman, Granlund, Ruta this year will cost $750,000 more than Karlsson will cost. So more money, but you're getting 3 players for the price of 1 ostensibly.
Hell yeah.
And long term,
we gotta get Randy G in here.
Randy G.
Shout out.
Second donation of the day.
Yeah. Here's another good question pertaining to next season. Was last year rock bottom, or let's get that back there, or do we have one more ultra miserable season before we see an uptick in the standings? I got to tell you, so far from what Greer has done, I gotta, boy. Now, granted, we're gonna have to rely on Blackwood having a resurgent season. Maybe Kakinen again also has a bounce back year. Those are going to be the tough ones. But do I think the Sharks will make the playoffs next season as it stands right now? No, you got rid of your two highest scoring players over the last 6 months.
I've heard that doesn't help.
Yeah. So the key is going to be you have to keep the puck out of the net. Right? And so I guess you're going to have to play better defensively.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, let's just consider where we're at. All right? And nobody's seeing this. I'm just showing this to the jerky man. But last year your starting lineup was Meyer, Hurdle, and Cunnin. So I don't think it's going to be that. One of those players is gone.
We'll have to bang out an armchair GM just because I think and then watch something will happen. But I think we're kind of at the point where no more major moves are going to come through. Like I think now that Erik Karlsson has been moved, I feel like now is the time where you can definitively say, okay, based on what we have here, how do we think the roster lines up? Because
and I don't even want to do that until we get a couple games into camp.
Sure, of course, but yeah, no, I get what you're saying.
But you think about it. The opening lineup: Meyer, Hurdle, and Cunnin. Cunnin to me proved at least last season. I don't know, maybe he had an off season or whatever, but to me, not a top 3 guy, potentially not a top 6 guy. Probably a bottom 6.
I don't judge people for their mistakes. I judge people for how they respond to their mistakes.
Sure. If he's able to pull it out, would love it.
Yeah, and so Cunnin didn't have a great year. Obviously, he got injured and took far too many penalties and really didn't do a whole lot offensively. There's a lot of negative things to say about Luke Cunnin, but we could fast forward, the season is in like just under 2 months. Like the narrative could be the complete opposite, because I think while Cunnin did not have a good year last year, I think he is a decent player, and chances are he's going to play better than he did last year. So we'll see,
Well, my point being is that when you look at the starting lineup, it was Meyer, Hurdle, Cunnin. One of those guys gone. The next line, Lindblom, Couture, LeBanc. Now, they're all still here.
For now.
Yeah, exactly. Now.
I was going to say two-thirds of that line could be traded away in 6 months.
Hello. Gregor, Bonino, Nieto, all gone.
All gone.
Laurent, Sturm, Gadjevic. Only Sturm remains. So
yeah, I forgot we traded away Steven Lorenz. That kind of bummed me out a little bit.
Yeah, no, I feel you. I was with you on that.
But again, it's all chess, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where you it bums you out to lose Lorenz, but you get Duclair back, and then you turn around and you're gonna flip Duclair. Say, dude, one red paperclip, right?
Oh, dude, get me that car, get me that house, get me that mansion.
Steven Lorenz will be a Stanley Cup in the next 5 years.
All right,
we're gonna do it. We're gonna follow the tea leaves.
Now here's the thing that I've been dying to ask and get into a little bit.
Ask.
Okay, and we started this almost an hour ago, so it was probably about time to wrap things up and maybe get a little breakfast in. How do you think Erik Karlsson performs in Pittsburgh? Does he play the remaining 4 years there?
Oh man,
dude, right?
Just because
that's something we could put a little scratch on, dude.
Ooh.
Oh, speaking of which, I win the bet. Remember?
Okay. Remind me again what it was.
It was, so we had 3 bets going. Mine was, it had to do with the whatever it was. Oh, the Sharks won at least 3 games between February 7th and February 25th. So I owed you a crispy $5 on that, but I got it back because they didn't win 10 of their final 31.
Which is
which is still amazing. They won
that's
7. But
that's incredible.
But to finish it all off, the tiebreaker. AJ says Erik Karlsson will not be in Teal this October, but Jerk says yes.
Yeah. Okay. All right. I see you. See you.
Nice.
I'll have to find a way to maybe I will do a $5 super chat.
There you go. But a little, yeah. So I mean, dude, do you think he plays out the 4 years in Pittsburgh?
I think he will, just because
Do they keep Karlsson and try to move Letang?
I mean, well, because that's the thing. Like you look at what the signings Pittsburgh has done, right? Like Brian Rust, even Malkin. Malkin's got 3 more years. Brian Rust has 5. Ricard Raquel's got 5. Letang has got 5. Ryan Graves has 6, which is interesting. Tristan Jarry's got 5. So they've sort of, locked up these guys long-ish term, and so it is definitely going to be a situation similar to the Sharks of 2019, 2020, 2021, where it doesn't matter how good the team is. The fact is they have to try to be competitive, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think he will remain in Pittsburgh for the remainder of the deal just because of who they have locked up. But again, and I feel like we've been saying it for the last 4 years now, but once the cap starts going up at a normal rate again, which is going to be 12 months from now, I don't think we're going to be talking about the salary cap as much as we have been the last few years.
Yeah, I mean, COVID totally threw a wrench into that.
Let's just look at it like this, right? So the NHL, they're at $83.5 million right now. Next year, if everything goes according to plan, which it sounds like it's going to, it's going to go from $83.5 million to $87.5 million. That's, on a lot of teams, that's a roster player.
Oh, GSM in the chat saying they ain't trading Letang. Full no move. He'll play 20-plus seasons for the Pens like Crosby and Malkin. Okay.
You know who else had a full no move?
Erik Karlsson.
Erik Karlsson. You know who practically had a full no move because of the way their no trade was structured? Brent Burns.
Yeah. Hey now.
I mean, things can change because I thought the same thing about Brent Burns. I thought the fact that the second day of being a Shark, he signed a 5-year contract, and then a year out from expiring, he signed an 8-year contract. I'm like, this guy has found a home in San Jose. He's going to be here forever.
Well, and dude, let's be honest, right? Very marketable personality.
Right, and I don't want to, I don't want to speculate on somebody else's business, but it wouldn't surprise me if Brent Burns still owns his house in San Jose.
It would surprise me. I think Chief is he's ready to be on the farm full time once he's done with hockey.
Maybe.
Yeah, I think that's more of his vibe. But let's get, how many job titles between now and next season do you think Kyle Dubas has?
I don't know if you read his quotes from that press conference, but he was like, "We concluded our GM search, and I've decided to anoint myself."
Baller move.
But the thing is, that's not really that much of a surprise. Everybody was saying that when he got hired as the president,
mm-hmm.
But it's just sort of funny to all the shit talkers on the internet on Jeter or whatever this app is called now. Exeter.
Oh, I was wondering what the hell you were talking about when you said that earlier. I'm all
Exeter.
Oh, in the back of my mind, I'm like, fuck, there's another one?
But all the shit talkers on the internet were saying Kyle Dubas, yeah, he's the president, but he's just going to make himself GM, and it's going to be this whole self-coronation. And then that's exactly what happened.
Yeah, sometimes they get it right.
I was going to say, one of the few times the shit talkers were right.
So with all these contracts now that the Sharks have, UFA.
Yep.
Let me ask you this.
Okay, ask it.
Who's getting Erik Karlsson's A on their sweater?
Well, I'm gonna
toast.
I'm gonna pre-answer your question with another question. Because who gets Nick Bonino's A?
See, I think that the Sharks need to go back to 3 letters. It was pretty silly where it was okay, 1 captain, 2 A's for the home games, 2 A's for the road. I think that, to be quite honest, I think that was a little bit of ego stroking. And
sure.
Now
maybe.
that a lot of those guys are out the door, it obviously makes sense. Couture and Hurdle, their tenure with the team, where they are on the salary structure, what they mean to the team. Absolutely, you get your C and your A. So who gets that last A? I think you can make an argument for Vlasic, but I don't think he wants it, nor does he give a shit about it. You might be able to make an argument for Ferraro.
I mean, Ferraro, even though Cap Friendly doesn't list it, Ferraro already technically has it.
Yeah. So
If you go back to the captain and two alternates method, then you're set.
Mm-hmm.
Couture, Hurdle, and Ferraro. But if you want to go to this captain, two home alternates, two road alternates sort of operation,
which
the Sharks
think is silly.
And I don't disagree. It is definitely silly, but the Sharks have been doing it pretty much. Funnily enough, the Sharks have been doing it pretty much since they've been terrible.
Yeah, so maybe not do that anymore.
But just to speculate, right? So you have Couture, Hurdle, and Ferraro. So you need two alternates. I think you're right. I think everything you said about Vlasic is correct. Like Vlasic probably deserves it just based on his stature within the league, but is probably, if he wanted it, probably would have already had it.
I think Drew making the best point. Sturm
is I said Sturm a long time ago, and even you throughout the whole entirety of last season, you had pointed out multiple times, like the way Sturm was very candid with the media, very accountable, very not self-reflective, right? Just the way he was so open to speaking, I think.
Well, and open to honesty.
Right. So I would say if you're going to go back to the 5 letters operation, definitely Nico Sturm gets one. Do you now? Maybe this is a bit more galaxy brain, right? But do you, because this group is largely brand new, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the people who are here from last year either already have a letter, aren't a player that would get a letter, right?
Yeah. Well, so guys that weren't here last year, but there's also a fair amount that ain't going to be here next year.
So is this galaxy brain or is this 4D chess? How about...
Hold on. Are you talking about like giving one to LeBanc to try to up his value?
No. What I'm saying is, so you got...
Breaking news. Friedman saying Matt Dumba closing in with Arizona, 1 year, approximately $4 million. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, and a lot of people were speculating Dumba was going to sign with the Sharks once Karlsson got traded. So
yeah.
But so... you tell me, is this galaxy brain or is this 4D chess? Why not give that final alternate captaincy letter to 33-year-old and 2-time Stanley Cup champion Jan Rutta?
I mean, dude has the resume.
Yeah. Is it galaxy brain or is it 4D chess?
Yeah, is that somebody you want helping to, I don't want to say mentor the blue line, but be right up there, and obviously these pieces that Greer is acquiring. How many times, good sir, have you heard they play the right way? They're tenacious. If I go the rest of my life never hearing their tenacity is so remarkable. It's off the charts. And they play the right way. They play the way we want to play. Blah, 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 blah. So does Rutta bring that type of game? Are the players that Greer got back, do they play the right way? Is this the culture that they want to drive forward?
Well, the thing is, none of these players really have a lot of term left on their deals. I could see maybe Jan Rutta, depending to your point, depending on where the Sharks end up. I mean, he is 33, and when his contract expires, he's going to be 35. So kind of hard to forecast where that one is going to go. But I think Jan Rutta, if he were a little bit younger, he could be somebody who got an extension when his contract was up. But like Hoffman and Granlund, they're skilled players. I just don't know that they're the type of players the Sharks are looking for.
Dude, sleepy mofo.
Like,
I haven't seen an early Teal town since EK65 got traded to San Jose.
But I just I look at Granlund, I look at Hoffman. They're good players, and they're going to play well for the Sharks, but they're not the type of guys that I think Greer's looking for long term, just because of what they bring to the table, right? And so I don't even think you can really forecast beyond this year with respect to those guys, because, well, Granlund has 1 year left on his deal after this year.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Sorry.
But But again, if he plays well and somebody is like, gosh darn it, we need that guy,
Mhm.
then, who's really to say? But I kind of think the Sharks are in the phase of their rebuild where it's like, we're going to acquire good players on the cheap so that we can eventually trade them away for a profit.
Yeah.
Like,
GSM, dude, your caps lock is stuck in the on position. Okay, we've been talking about this for an hour. It's probably a good time to wrap it all up. So, overall, a year ago, we were whelmed by Mike Grier. At this point, grade-wise, for what has happened between Burns and Karlsson, and that quite frankly is very funny when you consider that at one point the Sharks had Burns and Karlsson. On paper, it looked amazing. Oh, did it look great on paper? Two Norris winner guys. Oh my,
yeah.
Doesn't that look just unbelievable? How'd that work out?
Right.
So, where are you at now on the Grier train? Do you see the light at the end of the tunnel? The map is showing a destination for you at this point? Because I wasn't getting one with Doug Wilson there towards the last couple seasons. Like, yeah, I'm like, what? Break out a different Thomas guide, buddy, because yours is broken.
Yeah, I definitely do. I definitely do see the light at the end of the tunnel. But that said, we are very far away from the end of the tunnel, right?
Yes.
And just to kind of jump onto the point you had made is, a year, 13 months ago, you were very whelmed with the Brent Burns trade.
Mm-hmm.
And
because what has it turned into? It's McAniemi,
and Steven Lorentz ended up getting flipped for Anthony Duclair, if you want to look at it that way. But
and you get some. I mean, it wasn't. What did they eat? 2.7. So they did get some money off the books. And again, that's to me. And I don't think we even mentioned this with the Erik Karlsson deal. But what you don't see listed in this trade proposal is Hockey Jerk's second favorite player coming back to the Sharks by the name of Cap Space.
Yeah.
That's huge. I don't think it's hysterical to me that, again, we heard all this talk of like, oh, the Sharks are they're dreaming if they think they're only going to eat 20%.
And they didn't even eat that.
Right? It's just kind of like, it just goes to show you a lot of the podcasters, bloggers, and hey, us too, man. There's some days we say something and you can look back on it 6 weeks later and go, what the fuck was I thinking? It just goes to show you, man. A lot of people, even the ones that get paid to do this, don't know everything.
Now let me ask you this question. So do you remember when the rumors came out earlier last season about the Sharks and Oilers conversation about Erik Karlsson?
Yeah.
What was the rumored percentage that the Sharks were willing to retain? Wasn't it 17 or 18%, something in that arena?
I thought it was always stuck at no more than 20.
Maybe. Regardless, I remember it was a real weird number. I think it might have been 18 or 17%.
Yeah, I do have a slight recollection of that.
But I just think it's funny because that number came out and everybody was like, "Oh my God, Mike Grier! Like, what are you is Santa Claus real too? Like, what are you talking about?" And then again, as we talked about earlier, the Sharks ended up retaining 13% on Erik Karlsson.
Okay, and here's a great question from the Wave in the chat, dude. I would have ate 20% for more picks. What do you think?
I mean, it sounds nice just in a vacuum, but there's no indication that was on the table. Like,
yeah, and the thing for me is you're not paying. That's over the term of 4 years,
right? I mean,
right. So you're getting one pick, but you're paying for it for 4 years. No, what they got, I'm very happy with.
Yeah, I mean, think about it like this: if they, let's say the Sharks do 20% instead of 13%, like what is an extra 7% worth?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I
Do they
don't know.
maybe okay, so you retain an extra 7%, let's just say. Does that mean the 2026 pick you give to Pittsburgh is a fourth instead of a third?
Sure.
Like at this point, you're counting grains of sand at this point.
What if I told you the Sharks have more picks in the first 2 rounds of this season than they have in the third round over the next 3 years?
That's fine. Third round picks suck anyway.
Oh, the Sharks, go back and look, my friend. I have they ever had a single one hit? Like, I feel like that's like literally the round where the Sharks are like, nope, don't need it, don't care about it. Somebody else will like it. Go ahead. Like, historically, the Sharks' third round picks, horrible.
Well, not only that, but like think about how easy it is to get a third round pick. Like
Dude,
you want to talk about it.
you get like 3 just for coming into the league, right?
I was gonna say you want to talk about putting some scratch onto it, like, really quick. Hold on, I'm sorry, Zach. Yes, Zach. The Sharks are paying more via taking on Granlund, but it's only 2 years at $5 million per versus 4 years at $11.5 million per. It nets out in the Sharks' favor in the long term.
Let me throw you just some names here. Linus Karlsson.
See you, bye.
Yeah. All right. Let's just roll down. Mike Robinson. Who?
Yeah.
Alex Schoenborn. Who? Dylan Sadowy. Okay.
Right.
The Justin Sefton. These are the players that the Sharks have taken over the last 10 years in the third round.
Mm-hmm.
A bunch of who? They have definitely, like, they took Mike Robinson in the third round. The guy has not played a single game, but you know who has? Rudolph Spalser's taken in the fifth of that same one.
Mm-hmm.
Another one, Alex Schoenborn, Dylan Sadowy, both taken in the third round. Have never played a game, but you know who has? Kevin LeBanc, taken in the sixth. So it just goes to show, like, historically, the last time the Sharks, and this is me scrolling. Dude, Grice is the last player that they've taken in the third round that has played any meaningful games in the NHL. And he didn't he just fucking retire?
He did just retire, but he didn't even hit his ceiling until he left the Sharks.
Oh man, if I had a nickel for that. No, I'm kidding. Every time that happens.
But here's the thing.
Dude, 1998, Brad Stewart in the first round, Jonathan Chichu in the second round, Rob Davison in the fourth round, Mikhail Samuelson in the fifth round, Jim Fahey in the eighth round. You know who they took in the third? Eric LaPlante. Never played a game in the NHL. Historically, just go and look. I'm telling you, man, third rounders have never worked for the Sharks. So the point is, yeah, give them up. Who cares?
Well, you know what's really funny about you. Really funny about you going back to 1998 specifically.
What's that? Oh, is that when you were born?
No. That's only 2 years after a certain someone took the director of amateur scouting job.
Oh.
Just saying. Anyway,
yeah.
Going back to the point you had made earlier. So the Sharks right now, if everything freezes today, the Sharks have 2 firsts, 2 seconds, which sounds fucking incredible.
And remember that Jersey one, if everything goes right in Jersey this season, that could bounce up to a first.
Yeah, I mean, the Devils.
Albeit if the criteria are satisfied for it to go to become a first, it's going to be a very low first.
Yeah, but you know what? Who cares? You'll still take it, right?
Oh, and it's still currency for deals down the line.
Right. So the Sharks, they got 2 firsts, 2 seconds, a fourth, a fifth, a sixth, and 2 sevenths. So they got 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 picks.
And Greer might not be done.
Well, see, and that's the other thing too. Again, you got to forecast, right? You got to look ahead. So LeBanc, Hoffman, Duclair, Barabanov, Lindblom, Capo Kakinen, all pending unrestricted free agents. Yep. Pretty safe bet of those 6 names I listed. If I'm being conservative, pretty safe bet that half of them get traded.
Yes.
And that's on the conservative side. Like, there's a good chance that all 6 of them get traded. That's a lot of currency right there. Like, again, especially LeBanc, Hoffman, Duclair, Barabanov, especially with those 4. Depending on how their seasons go, that could be 4 seconds right there.
Oof. And I'm not going to lie. I'm going to be bummed to see Barabanov go.
Me too, but I think it's the logically right thing.
Yeah, it's better for the team and everything. But oh man, that's it was a fun run with that guy. He was a bright spot in a relatively dark era of Sharks hockey.
But you know what? But at the same time, but here to kind of already take an axe to the point I just made, could Barabanov be the guy who values, a comfort over winning?
Or
because
it says, hey, the Sharks gave me a chance when Toronto wouldn't.
Well, and again, we've gone through his history before, but just to do it again, comes to San Jose, only plays 9 games, and he's like, you know what? I didn't play here long, and this team was terrible. Sign me up for another year. And then plays well, and same thing. Hey, I played well. I feel like I have more to give, and this team was terrible again. Doesn't matter. Sign me up for 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
And then played well last year, and no reason to think he's not going to play well this year. Like, there's already been 2 examples of him being like, I'm happy here. I don't care if we suck. Like,
a lot to be said for that.
I mean, maybe that continues. Maybe
how is it that the culture is that good for for Barabanov and the Sharks, yet the culture we keep on hearing problems with the Barracuda?
I know, right?
Square that circle.
And the thing is, like, of those 6 names that I mentioned, like, I do think there's a very real chance that it could go the other way as well, where 2/3 of them end up re-signing and coming back. I mean, to your point, especially LeBanc, I know there's a lot of dialogue about LeBanc, but especially LeBanc and Duclair, like, they're only 27. Like, if you think this rebuild has got another 3 years, like, by the time the Sharks hypothetically are competing again, like, they'll be 30. Like, that's still young.
Mm-hmm.
If they feel compelled to wait it out, and there's no indication that is the case, but if the fit is right and maybe the roadmap is shorter than we think, maybe any number of those 6 names end up wanting to stick around. But I think, the smart thinking is that all 6 of them will probably be gone in 12 months, and that gets you more draft picks.
Yeah. Well, and something that you've kind of intimated.
Sure.
But sometimes you just have to say it out loud. Mike Greer took a very, very difficult, damn near immovable contract and turned that into 3 very movable contracts.
Yeah. And a first-round pick.
Yeah. So you have to
and cap space.
Yeah. Oh, so before we take off, who does the marketing department focus on next year? Dude, no more Timo, no more Karlsson. I mean, obviously Hurdle and Couture are the good names, but I mean, you've got a lot of guys that are tied up for a very small amount of time. So it's like, is it just the Hurdle and Couture show until Eklund or Smith or Bordelot or somebody catches fire and makes the jump?
Yeah, I think
I'd give Nico Sturm some camera time.
I would too. I think
Ferraro,
because here's the thing: the Sharks have to sell tickets, right?
Yeah, so you got to market somebody.
To start the season, though, like, even the guys who probably aren't going to be here very long, Duclair, Hoffman, you got to market those guys too, because they're sexy names. People have heard of those names. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And so to start, you're going to market those names, obviously. But then once those guys are all traded away, obviously Hurdle and Couture, to your point, are going to be marketed. You probably market Granlund because he's going to be on this team beyond this year. But, like, after the trade deadline and all these guys are traded away, that's when you really steer into your Sturm, your Zetterlund, maybe Zadina. Definitely Eklund, definitely Thrawn and Ferraro and Knizhov, like you kind of like you got to market the guys in the first half just because you want to sell tickets. But then once you sort of really get into the nitty gritty, like, that's when you really got to market the young guys. It's like once all those older guys who are going to be UFAs are gone,
Mm-hmm.
And the Sharks, I think, the Sharks, I think, could do a lot of good work a lot of better work in their marketing in general, because again, like, I personally feel
stop
like,
stealing our shit. We had Teal together first, but that's all fine. It's fine.
well, I personally feel like not enough people know who Henry Thrun is or what he's all about.
Sure.
And, I understand, like, I understand the selling tickets element of it, and I definitely think that's important and needs to be done. But at the same time, you also need to market the guys who are going to be here longer than this year.
Exactly. Yeah. But and then sell tickets for the CUDA. But just put the posters of Thrun and Eklund and Border, just hang them at Tech CU for now, and then just move them over when the time is right.
I don't know. I think, I mean, because with all the guys the Sharks have acquired, right? Granlund, Hoffman, Duclair, they still have Barbonov, they still have LeBanc, Couture, Hurdle. Like, that right there is a pretty filled up top six. Like, and that's not even factoring in Zadina either. Like, who I think should be in the top six. So, like, do you think it's better for Eklund to start with the Barracuda again just because he's not going to get top six time with the Sharks? Or do you maybe try and, like, with all these guys, just go for like a more balanced attack and not like the Sharks teams that made the playoffs in 2018 and 2019, like, that was a more balanced attack. It was like having 4 second lines, right? Do you try and do that with this team where it's like, Eklund and Zadina are on our third line, but that third line, they're going to play 16 minutes and they're going to be on the power play and they're going to be just as effective as our top 2 lines. Like, do you take that approach, or do you just say, hey, you know what, Eklund, go to the Barracuda until we trade these guys away?
2 things pop into my head. First, I would say whoever has the best camp,
Yeah, good point.
Perform, and you're going to be rewarded. The other thing is, to me, at this point, what's best for their development?
Sure.
So that's the way I would look at it. But I like the points that you made. John Swenson in the chat, how do you compare this trade to the Burns trade?
Oh, my God. This one takes the Burns trade's lunch money and shoves it in a locker.
Big time. Couldn't agree more.
Let me ask you a question.
Sure. Say it.
So think back, and again, this wasn't that long ago. Think back to when the Sharks acquired Anthony Duclair.
Mm-hmm.
The social medias, Duke, welcome to San Jose. Here's a highlight reel. Here's a picture. Here's a media interview. Here's all this stuff, right? It was very much like, this guy is going to be here and it's going to be awesome. And now, granted, we're only, just under 2 hours removed from the trade coming down, but everything on the socials right now, specifically relating to Granlund and Hoffman, it almost just kind of feels like this was a business transaction. Like, is there an outside chance one of those 2 guys gets flipped somewhere else before training camp starts? Maybe to a team, hear me out, maybe to a team that wants to add a middle 6 winger but has this pesky salary cap problem and they're waiting for some LTIR to kick in. I'm just saying.
I'm so sick of LTIR.
I don't think it's likely, but I think it's possible.
Oh my Lord! Oh,
right?
GSM says Hoffman has a bad rep around the league. The guy just goes places and wins. I mean, results are in the pudding.
But does he have a bad rep? Like, now here's the thing: the whole situation with him and his wife allegedly cyberbullying Erik Karlsson's wife, like, it's definitely fucked up. But I don't know. It just feels, I don't know. If you're going to say that one thing has led to this really bad reputation, okay, then sure, yeah, I can believe that, and that makes a lot of sense. But a lot of
that's the only player I've ever heard him have a problem with.
Right, but the other thing is, I've
and we don't know that it was him. It could be just that their wives were very catty and didn't get it. Like, I could really give a shit, to be honest.
But what I'm saying is, like, I see these people saying, oh, Hoffman's got a bad rep, he's done all this bad stuff, and then when it comes time to, like, expand on that, it's like, well, his wife cyberbullied Erik Karlsson's wife. And, like, not to say that that's not bad, but that's all that they mention. And so it's like, if there's more shit out there, I want to know.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
Chris
share.
Man is a Sharks legend for a reason.
Right. But again, to go back to the point I made, right? You look at these teams who could conceivably want to add someone but need to get their LTIR under control, right? Tampa Bay, Colorado, Vegas, Florida, maybe the Dallas Stars, right?
Oof.
Like, again, I'm not saying it's likely, but it's definitely possible where if a team says, hey, you know what, we have cap space now because of LTIR, can we give you a second round pick for this guy? Money Mike will be like, yep, sure, thank you, goodbye.
I love it. Yeah, if they can send him to Dallas, that'd be, if all he does is win, help out my boy over there.
Yeah.
One last kick at the can.
All to say, like, it's not like Money Mike is not like, this was not the last thing. Erik Karlsson was not the kumbaya for this offseason. Like, I think there's more to be done here. Again, you've got 14 forwards and 8 defensemen. Like, and they're all NHLers. It's not like somebody needs to go down to the Barracuda, right? And that doesn't include Bordelot. That doesn't include Thrun. Like, there's more. That doesn't include Jacob Peterson or Ryan Carpenter. Like, more things have to be happening.
Bro, this is why Chris needs to come back every once in a while and make a guest cameo. You consider his impact to time on roster. Mike Hoffman is the greatest Shark of all time.
The Sharks have never lost a game when Hoffman was on the team.
I'm saying it.
They also never played a game, but
that's fine. And for those of you who are unaware, if you want to see the Mike Hoffman tribute video, it's already posted on the Teal Town YouTube channel, so you can go find that. One of our most popular videos by far, I would say.
How incredible would it be if the Sharks acquired and flipped Hoffman twice? How incredible would that be?
Oh, dude. Now, you want to talk 4D chess? Whew. Dude. It's we're still, I know you're talking that it's we're 6 weeks out. Dude, 6 weeks is a long time in hockey, my friend.
Yep.
Dude, I could see. Oh man, do we need to put a little scratch on that? I don't know. We have to talk offline and get our bets in order. So with that, for those of you who might have just joined in a little late, Erik Karlsson is no longer a Shark. Details here on your screen. But what ends up happening is, look, Karlsson's massive contract now relatively ineffective to the San Jose Sharks. Only, 1.5?
Yep.
For the next 4 seasons, which is next to nothing. That is tip money. And remember, the cap is going up next season, and the Sharks also got a first-round pick and 3 very flippable assets. So, again, win in my book. Very big win. I got to say, the Mike Greer era had me a little tilted at first, and right now I'm here for it. I'm not saying it's Montana to Young making that transition just yet. We'll see. Wilson has the receipts. He put together very good teams for a very long time. But, yeah, the last couple of years, is it me? It all started, Burns wins that goddamn Norris, and all of a sudden guys are getting 8-year deals when they never got over 5. And that's when it all went.
Got to play the game.
Do I, though?
If you want to win a Stanley Cup, yeah. But here's the thing. You mentioned that this is a big win for the Sharks, and I agree. 100%. I agree with you. But I think this is a big win for Pittsburgh, too. What is
Pittsburgh, what is the Pittsburgh social saying? Like, do you see people on the Tweety talking about, like, oh, yes, now, oh, my God, him with Letang, Crosby and Malkin are going to do it. They're going to be pissed off that they missed last year. So they're, what did they miss by anyway? Like 2 points? Like, it wasn't a lot.
Yeah.
So it's, huge. And oh my God, when the Penguins play Ovi, it's going to be awesome. And because Ovi's going to be going for the record. And I mean,
it seems like a lot of just kind of quickly scrolling through the replies.
You wearing your hazmat suit to go into the comment section?
No, honestly, it seems like more people are hyped about the fact that the Penguins cleared out a bunch of money.
Oh, so this is kumbaya all around. Everybody's happy.
Right, because you look at it, so Jeff
notice how nobody gives a shit about Montreal fans.
But even then, like I think this is the rare trade where every team's a winner. Like,
well, and let's be honest, we'll all judge it 3 years from now, but go.
Of course, yeah. I mean, yeah, you can't judge. You have to judge it 12 months from now. You have to judge it when the last piece of the deal is finalized, which is that 2026 third. and you have to judge it, a year or so after that. But just looking at it on the surface, we've talked a lot about the Sharks. And it's a really good deal for them. They get the first round pick, and they, to your point, 3 assets that they can flip if they want to.
And real deal Prime in the chat saying the Sharks lost this trade. So you're getting 30-plus-year-olds on the team. Granlund 31, Mike Hoffman 33. Again, to what you were saying earlier, that's not ancient.
Well, not only that, but
and very flippable.
But that's the thing is the people who say that, like, you have to play the long game with these things, and it's clear to me Mike Greer is playing the long game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's like 2 of the 3 guys that they're getting, they're UFA in a year,
right?
So who gives a shit?
I think, dude,
you're stuck with Karlsson for 4 years.
when the trade deadline comes in 6 months, I feel like we're going to be referencing this show a lot. And here's the thing, like I said, the Sharks, obviously, I think it's a really good trade for them. Pittsburgh, they get Erik Karlsson. Dylan Hamiluk is a decent prospect. Maybe there's more there, maybe there's not. And they get a 3rd-round pick. You're not complaining about getting draft picks. And they bring in Rem Pitlick, who, again, has only been like a 4th liner to this point, but is a decent player. You need those players. And then Montreal, I think, is the real winner because they get a 2nd-round pick. And really, the only thing they have to do is take Jeff Petrie back, and they get a goalie in Casey Smith. Like, It's good all around. And honestly, with like everybody's talking about, oh my God, Pittsburgh, they brought in $10 million. What are they doing, right? Well, they cleared out, $7.5 million to San Jose and $4.5 million to Montreal. So when you think about it, despite taking on Erik Karlsson's reduced cap hit of $10 million, Pittsburgh is still net positive on their cap space.
So
it's a win.
I don't know what the hell bacon is, but I just like the comment that said, if I had a nickel for every time the Sharks traded a defenseman who finished top 10 in Norris voting, retained salary, still received an essentially worthless package, I'd have 2 nickels.
Thing is, though, and the thing about that Patrick Bacon guy, like, I'm not going to sit here and disparage anybody's work, but that guy, from what I understand, that guy said a lot of dumb shit more than he said smart stuff. So
I don't even know who the hell it is, nor do I care. I just look at this and I go, did if anything right now, and of course Chris is waiting for the urinating tree video, which of course is going to be great. When I look at this all in, I want to say, do you think that there is a contingent of fans that for Pittsburgh that could say we overpaid this deal? Like, did we really have to give up a 1st and a 2nd? I mean, you had to give up a 1st to get Karlsson. That was the going rate no matter what was going on. Remember, very early on, it was like, oh, we're not even talking, we're not taking a call unless it starts with 2 firsts.
Right, and I think, like, Pittsburgh, yeah, they gave up a 1st and a 2nd, but the thing is, like, the way, specifically the Granlund contract, like I said, as good of a player as Granlund is, I mean, he's had some troubles, especially this year, like struggling on the ice, but I still think he's a good player. And same thing, Jeff Petrie, good player, struggled. And so I think, yeah, they give up a 1st and 2nd-round pick, but Pittsburgh was able to, like I said, they were able to dump $12 million in cap and didn't have to pay like a sweetener for it. Like,
well, real deal seems to be kind of agreeing with you. So Montreal dumped over $5 million in cap, got their goalie, got a hometown kid, and a pick.
Yeah, and
again, like you said, dude, like, everybody wins.
Right, and I think, if you want to look at it from the 30,000-foot view, if you're saying right here, right now, I think Pittsburgh is the number 1 winner just because they got Erik Karlsson, but also because they got to offload a bunch of money that wasn't really working out for them, and they didn't have to pay a penalty for it. So I definitely think if you're right here, right now, if you're comparing Pittsburgh to San Jose, then obviously, yeah, the Pittsburgh side is more preferable. But the thing that I really appreciate about what Mike Greer is doing is he's playing the long game. He's saying, okay, we're going to acquire these guys, Hoffman, Granlund, maybe Jan Ruta, but maybe not. We're going to acquire these guys. We're going to play them. And guess what? If they If they do exactly what they did last year, guess what? You can still flip them and get something. If they play even better, that value is inflated. You can get more. Gur's playing the long game, and I love that he's doing it. Hoffman and Granlund, he's doing the same thing with Duclair. He's doing the same thing with Zadina. Guess what? Zadina doesn't work out. You let him go. No big deal. He does work out. Guess what? You got a top 6 forward who's 24 years old.
Hell yeah.
So Gur's playing the long game, and I love it.
And I want to see the one guy who like has an Erik Karlsson jersey and like, puts the 8 over the 5, puts Hoffman on the back.
Well, what I want to know is like I don't know.
I
mean, are they really going to disrespect Melker Karlsson like that by giving Hoffman 68?
Dude, I mean, how funny would that be? so epic. I got to call Warner. He's got to have at least one Melker lying around. But oh man, yeah. So anyway, I dig this. I did see quite the uptick over the last week or so of people trying to like, hey, anybody want to buy my Karlsson jersey?
Well, and you know what? Depending on who you ask, those Karlsson jerseys are either going to be like worthless or they're going to be like delicacies. Just depending on who you ask.
Yeah, because got that Norris and had the 100-point season.
Well, and the fact that he's gone too, which means those jerseys are theoretically going to be less available.
Sure. Real deal. Long game doesn't mean bringing in 30-year-old vets. Need picks, prospects, and young talent. Yeah, and that's what we said. You flip those 30-year-old vets for the picks.
Yeah, okay. So this, and again, I'm not trying to flame anyone here, but like, if the Sharks, excuse me, acquire a 2024, let's just say a 2024 second now, or they acquire a 2024 second in 6 months. What I'm failing to understand what the problem is here, because in both situations, the 2024 draft is still months away.
Yeah.
So what's the glitch here? Help me understand.
There's no glitch. No
glitches.
Like,
I don't know. You bring in like.
Let it go, man. Just let it go.
Again, it's the off season. It's not flame people mode, but
yeah. We'll wait. Yeah,
that like an L take. But
that'll come in October. All right, everybody. Thanks so much for joining. Hey, we used to do this thing called the Pucknologist every Sunday.
We still do it.
Yeah, but thoughts on moving it to 9:00 in the morning instead of 7 at night? Yay, nay?
As weird as this sounds, I'm actually not against that.
Once football season's over, I might entertain the idea.
God, could you imagine?
I'm telling you. But any hoodles, look, we're going to be back in October for Pucknologist. Remember, between now and then, we're going to be talking to Remenda. We'll probably be talking to Brazil. We'll probably be talking to Tara Sloan. There's a lot of people we're going to be chatting with. So look out for that. We'll do our previews, all the other stuff that you're used to. But between now and the start of camp-ish, we'll probably, you're not going to see a whole lot from the Teal Town YouTube channel unless another deal comes down like it did today. So, look, everybody deserves a break, and we're certainly there for the amount of content we generate. So we could probably take August off unless something happens. But in case you missed it, remember, you can catch all of our stuff. If you're on Stitcher, though, you might want to get off there because from what I understand, that's about to go away. But, yeah, if you missed it, you can find us all the different platforms. And remember, we're on all the social media networks. We thank you so much for the people who threw a little donation in the Super Chat tonight. Very much appreciate that. And there you go. So with that, oh boy, how's your summer been so far? Not bad.
So far, so good. It's been, I think you can agree this season was really kind of taxing. And so it's been nice to not have to think about it.
Hell yeah. And somehow I ended up thinking about, what's helped? That little thing behind me with the wheel and the spokes and the seat and everything. Oh yeah.
Nice.
Significant help. Get outside. Go breathe some fresh air.
Dude, I'm telling you this, like I would love, I have a bike, in my garage. I have inline skates in my garage. I would love to go out and just go for a cruise, but like
it's 112 degrees.
I was gonna say, I was explaining this, and I'm like, man, I would love to go do these things, but it's like it's hot as hell outside. Like I can't. You know what I mean? Like
Dude,
without running the risk of dying.
Yeah, you need that access to the sphere. Just say, hey guys, I just want to go around in circles. Leave me alone.
Right. And now granted, once we hit probably mid-October, then the weather's going to be really choice. And so, from mid-October to, I would say mid-October to probably beginning of June, I'm probably just going to be trying to be outside as much as I can.
Perfect. All right. Well, again, thanks everybody for joining us. Thanks for the thumbs up. Thanks for the subscribes if you were able to do that. And look, if you're interested, I'm sure that every other Sharks podcast is going to be doing a live show at some point today. So if us jabbering for over an hour and a half wasn't enough for you, or you need to hear some other takes, there you go. Other podcasts are available for you out there to belabor the point. I want to see if any of them who made silly predictions are going to admit it. Because there was a Penguins podcast that I saw post something and I was like, really, guys? That's where you're going with it? So, and then the Carolina podcast as well. And in fact, I believe I'm going to be guesting on a podcast here. So coming up pretty soon. This is, what is this? I agreed to it. Coast to Coast Hockey Podcast. So I guess I'm going to be talking to them. And look, going to be a lot to talk about now after what happened today. So, Real Deal Prime said subscribe. Thank you very much, good person. And with that, any last thoughts, words, things until we open the Pucknologist when the season starts?
Yeah, my last thoughts. This is... I'm looking at the Sharks armchair GM right now, and I've kind of like people who I think should be in the NHL. I've moved them up to the NHL tier, and in doing that, the forwards are at 16, which is far too high.
Does you say, wait a minute?
but my reason for bringing that up is that kind of reinforces my prediction that like we could still see one of these forwards go between now and training camp.
Hey, that brings another Teal Town Live then to the party.
That's what they say.
That is what they say. I'm interested. The Sharks more points next season?
No. You
don't think they're going to have more points, even if it's just one more point? You don't think so far on paper this upcoming team could put up more points? And granted, we already said they've lost their two top scorers over the last 6 months, but
they have more lower tier scorers.
More lower tier scores, but maybe they actually have some defensemen now that actually play defense.
I'm gonna be the contrarian, and I'm gonna say the Sharks are gonna do exactly what they did last year.
And you know what that leads to? A pretty solid first round pick.
Yeah,
I'll take it. I'm willing to embrace the suck for one more year.
The last point I'll make, and this is really steering into the Galaxy brain here. So Pittsburgh missed the playoffs, as we mentioned. Pittsburgh missed the playoffs by 1 point last year. Like, how epic would it be if they missed the playoffs again? Because the Sharks hold their first round pick, and as long as it's not in the top 10, they'll keep it.
Is it? Well, it's top 5 protected, isn't it?
Top 10 protected.
I'm so top tired 10, of these fucking protections.
It's top 10 protected, and then so if the Penguins end up in the top 10, then it'll be a 2025 first that I believe has 0 protections.
Ooh.
Like I said, like there's a lot of considerations.
Yeah, there's a lot to well, you know what? And we have the next 6 weeks to do that.
Yeah, there's a lot to chew on.
Yeah, a lot of fat on the bone, a lot of meat on the bone. It's all good. All right, everybody, we hope you have enjoyed this hour and a half of absolute elation. Mike Greer doing yeoman's work so far over there, and I will leave you with I'll leave you all with this. and we'll ask the question to Jerk, but we won't get the answer until we begin the upcoming season of the Pucknologist. Hope you guys have a great summer for what's left of it. Bring on the football, but my question is, who will be my 23-24 whipping boy on the Pucknologist? Good night, or I should say good morning, everybody.